Resilience plus Rise, the podcast where resilience is not just a concept, but it's a lived experience. I'm your host, Thomas Scaria, a resilience coach, ultramarathoner, and a relentless believer in the human spirit's ability to rise. This podcast is a companion to my book, Resilience plus Rise 26.2 Transformative Miles to Unleash Your Marathon of Life Mindset. Each episode is a raw, unfiltered dive into the stories of those who have faced life's hardest battles and emerged stronger. As I mentioned, this is a companion to this book. In this book, I have mentioned about your body as a vessel, how it helps to get you onto a lot of areas in your life. I was very fortunate to have a talk with today's guest a few days back, and I was absolutely floored by what his concept has been. Keith Robinson, what he believes is that the body can fix its own problems once you give it the required nutrition. Keith is not a medical professional, but what he has done is he has put decades of his life in understanding the human body to a point that medical science has approached him time and again to find what his thoughts and what his way of getting things to the other side have been. So, without much time wasted, let's go into how do you feel better, live better, and most importantly, how to take back your health. Keith, welcome to Resilience plus Rise, the podcast.
Thanks, Thomas. I'm glad to be here. I was glad that we had that other chat the other day, because you never know what a one-to-one is going to turn out to happen, what it's going to lead to, and that's the beauty of doing one-to-ones with people.
Fantastic. And I'm quite excited. So let's just directly jump into wherein you say that you mentioned that you have helped a lot of people clean their arteries and restore the blood flow throughout the body.
Yep.
And this we know in today's world, wherein heart issues, or whether we are talking about any other related challenges. And again, heart issues is one particular thing, pressure is another aspect, diabetes is another element. All these elements are in its own way dealing with the challenges of the body.
Yeah.
So
from a cardiovascular perspective, we have 100,000 miles of veins and arteries and capillaries. And our body is supposed to pump that blood through the entire cardiovascular system, carrying oxygen, carrying nutrition. And the body is supposed to be able to perform, recover, and replace itself at a high quality and a high standard. We have two problems in today's world. Number one, a huge lack of nutrition in the food we're eating. So we're eating food all right. We're getting plenty of calories. We're getting plenty of things that we shouldn't be getting because there's stuff added to the food that shouldn't be there. The more processed the food is, the worse it is for us. If you sat down and ate a plate of salad 50 years ago, and you want the same amount of nutrition today, you'd have to sit down and eat 47 plates of salad. That's never going to happen. So therefore, the body fails to start dealing with the problems that it's faced with all the time. And we're bombarded with more poisons than ever before. From a cardiovascular perspective, we are supposed to get nutrition from the food, which also helps us to make a gas called nitric oxide. So the process is we eat foods that contain the amino acid arginine. The arginine goes into the bloodstream. it will find a parking space on the lining of the veins and the arteries called the endothelium. And when it parks there, we make what's called nitric oxide synthase, which turns into nitric oxide gas. Nobody seems to be tuned into it, even though in 1998, there was a Nobel Prize for medicine proving that nitric oxide was a signaling molecule in the cardiovascular system. And our level of nitric oxide production determines whether we keep the arterial system clean, elastic, and free-flowing, or whether we don't. So when people don't make enough nitric oxide, they start to build up plaque in the arterial system. And as we age, we make less and less. Our capability of manufacturing it gets diminished. So whatever somebody's making in their 20s, by the time they get to their 40s, they are only able to make 50% of that. So you can see the problem straight away. We're not making enough nitric oxide to keep on top of dealing with the plaque that the body is building up. That's going to cause several problems.
Of course, I think so. That's already saying the moment you said plaque, which means it is obstructions to the flow of blood. But two questions which comes up in the conversation which you mentioned. There are so many institutions, organizations which is promoting fresh food, supposedly. I mean, and people pay more for non-GMO or organic food, etc. So in those particular cases, is that another market which is there, or do we need to be skeptical, or should we just go to the farmers market? What's your take on that?
I would feel number one would be to grow your own, but of course you can't grow everything all year round. Number two is your farmers markets. Number three would be to go to the shops that do have organic and non-GMO. The normal run-of-the-mill supermarkets doesn't generally have much in the line of clean food. Especially the center aisles, as you call them, are full of the wrong stuff. People probably should analyze the labels better, understand what the labeling means. Sometimes they hide things. Let's say, for example, there was a sweetener called, what is it called in the past? I forget the name, but they changed the name of it to amino sweet. And they keep changing the name of some sweeteners to make sure that it's a bit more hidden, but it's the same thing. So name changes, you have to keep up on name changes as well. The sweeteners used in food are 600 times sweeter than sugar. Now, sugar is not good for you, but when you're taking something that's 600 times sweeter than sugar, it's marketed as, oh yeah, well, it's low fat, or it's this, or it's that, or it's sugar free. I mean, alarm bells should go off when you see sugar free, because that means there's a sweetener there. But when let's say, for example, a diabetic is told, oh yeah, well, drink sugar free, whatever. They drink this sugar free, whatever, and the sweetener is 600 times more sweet than sugar. So as soon as your tongue tastes that sweetness, it assumes there's a whack of sugar coming. So therefore starts to produce insulin to counteract the sugar. But the sugar's not there. Now you have an overload of insulin. And insulin is causing weight gain. So have you ever seen people walking around that are quite substantial and they're drinking their diet, whatever? They've caused that weight gain by drinking the diet, whatever.
Okay. So actually, my question, the subset question would be about the so-called the diet drinks.
Yes.
So I think you have already answered on that.
Worse than the sugary ones.
Wow. So another question which comes up over here is that specifically, let's talk about the time today, wherein the economic situation is quite challenging.
Mhm.
And when people are faced about going to the supermarket, yes, you say that miss out the middle aisles
Mhm.
and just stick to the aisles which is at the sides.
Yeah.
There could be a hesitation because, again, from looking from the monetary point of view, and of course, it's a balance between the monetary and the health point of view. And where people they say that might as well just go in and buy um, thing which is there in the middle, and that will fill up the stomach.
Yes.
So, in that particular way, what do you suggest that people should be doing? And specifically when we're talking about, because a lot of people say it's easy for him to say when going for organic or things like that, but then we got to remind ourselves about our pocket also.
Yes. Well, keep to clean eating. We sometimes do what's called microbiome gut resets with people that have a more serious health challenge. And to do that, you go back to clean eating. So in other words, your meat, your fish, but not processed, grass-fed if possible, and then vegetables. So meat and vegetables without the rice, without the potato, without all the things that actually cause the body to produce more sugars.
Okay.
Because your gut microbiome has a controlling effect on every system in the body. So the more things that you put into your gut that causes an imbalance there, you are causing a reaction in the system. So you should have about an 85% good bacteria, 15% bad. And that ratio is really important because when the correct ratios are together, they lock together and create a wall. And that wall stops toxins leaking from the gut into the bloodstream. It's called leaky gut. But when you overfeed the bad bacteria and underfeed the good bacteria, you have, number one, you're causing leaky gut. Number two, you're causing an inflammatory response in the body, which means that the body is going to have a knock-on negative effect on every system in the body. So you could have an autoimmune condition starting from the gut. 200 different hormones are manufactured in your gut. So if your gut's out of balance, your hormone factory is out of balance. Lots of people are suffering from depression. 90% of your serotonin is manufactured in your gut. If your gut's wrong, your serotonin production is wrong, and then you're depressed.
So that this affects mentally also.
Yes.
Another question which I was thinking about is that a lot of advocacy has been put for being healthy by working out.
Yep.
Or being active, whether it is through workouts, whether it's through yoga, or whether it's specifically when you mention about nitric oxide, wherein they talk about breathing also helps to produce the nitric oxide. What's your take on that, Keith?
So an average person is going to manufacture nitric oxide for 1 to 3 seconds just from eating foods that contain arginine. But one person in two has natural blockers to nitric oxide production. So they're going to make less than somebody else out the gate. But you can increase nitric oxide production by doing things like humming. There's a certain type of humming you can increase it. Doing exercise is going to improve it. Very high levels of antioxidants are going to help because high levels of antioxidants are going to lower one of the blockers to nitric oxide production, which is ADMA is the blocker, but you can very high levels of antioxidants can actually help lower ADMA levels, which means that the arginine that you are taking in is going to be more productive in manufacturing your nitric oxide. So all of those things are going to help. Eating things like beets are going to improve nitric oxide production through a different mechanism. It'll do it through nitrates instead of through arginine nitric oxide mechanism. I prefer myself to use supplementation because you're talking about increasing from an average of 1 to 3 seconds of nitric oxide production up to and beyond 36 hours of nitric oxide production. So if you've been a very long number of years building up plaque because you didn't have enough nitric oxide, you can very quickly create enough to start melting all that and reversing the situation. And that's what I prefer because it's fast. And we can achieve a lot in a very short space of time. I saw one particular gentleman who I did a cardiovascular screening on, and he needed a triple bypass, but he followed the protocol that we recommend, and he went back 3 months later and he was told he no longer required a bypass. So you won't get that sort of speed through breathing or any other mechanism of nitric oxide production.
So, guys, if you all are reaching until here and you have heard so far what Keith has been mentioning, as I mentioned, he has been investing his life into the betterment of the human betterment. The human betterment, whether it is about how the health regimes can be controlled, how do we make it every step, making you more stronger, your body more stronger. I'll be putting out his contacts in the comments below. Do have a look onto it and connect with him. If there are any questions that needs to coming up, reach out to him directly, and he will be able to tell you what's the next steps to be done. Keith, for me, the next step over here is that you mentioned supplements.
Yes.
But there are people who are supplement averse. They feel that let me have proper diet.
Mm-hmm.
Or proper food. You mentioned beet as one of a nutrient-rich food that people can have.
Yeah.
What could be the other fruits or vegetables that they should be honing their focus on?
The reason I mentioned beets is because it has a capability of helping nitric oxide production.
Okay.
I think the cleaner the foods, the better. You know, your eggs, your meat, your fish, your vegetables, anything that is clean and not processed, and definitely not ultra processed. The ultra processed stuff is killing people. There's additives in there that should not be in food, and God only knows why they're in there, because they're not to benefit people.
So things like ready to eat stuff.
Yeah, I'd be a little bit wary there. It's where I know some people have no time, and they're on a hamster wheel. They can't do anything. And again, this is where I believe supplementation comes in a lot for people, because I use three particular ones. One, obviously, the arginine complexer to build nitric oxide to clean the arterial system. And by the way, I got my arterial stiffness down to that of a teenager. And that's tested based on information like central aortic pressure and radial augmentation index. But I use a live raw berry supplement and a live raw green supplement also. But the live raw berries that we are using, all the raw ingredients are tested down to parts per trillion to make sure there is no traces of herbicides, insecticides, GMOs, or heavy metals. And I think that's a key part, because there's a lot of stuff available out there and there's no testing done. 90% of what people purchase out there is not sold by the company that's actually manufacturing it. So people are getting someone else, contracting someone else to manufacture something. They're putting their label on it and they're shipping it out. And you know that's going to be done in contract. So you're going to be asking people, you're going to be putting out a tender. What could you make me that for? What could you make me that for? And they're going to have a great look of ingredients on the labels. But if you have synthetic ingredients, the body's not going to recognize it. You're only buying expensive urine. So what I'm using for that regard would be every 30 mils of that. Now, 30 mils, it would be 6 teaspoonfuls, would be equivalent to eating 3.5 kilos of raw fruit, antioxidant-wise. It's a natural anti-inflammatory. It's a natural pain suppressant. It's antiviral. It's antifungal. And I actually helped a guy in Dublin reverse a condition that he had called hepatitis C in a 2-week period by drinking lots of that, because I wanted his body to go attacking that virus that was in his liver. And 2 weeks later, an ultrasound showed his liver was back to normal. which previously was enlarged and hard. The other one we're using is a live raw greens. And again, people underestimate greens. Why do we need greens in our diet? Because greens detox organs, cleanse the blood, correct the pH, plus provide nutrition. And because 9 people out of 10 are acidic instead of being alkaline, those people are inviting acid-based health challenges in on them, which would include chronic pain, arthritis, osteoporosis, acid reflux, and cancer. They're all going to thrive in an acidic body, but can't survive in an alkaline one. So if you're not getting your greens, you are inviting trouble. So that's why I would use the live raw greens also. And every 10 mils of that, 2 teaspoons, is equivalent to eating 1 kilo of leafy green veg. So I think if you have the right quality supplementation, it's a key part of staying healthy and well, and giving the body the mechanism to solve problems that it wants to solve.
So you mentioned raw greens,
yeah,
and this is a capsule or
it's an actual bottle full. It's actually a liquid. It's live raw food.
Okay, and that can you get it from Amazon or Whole Foods? Or, I mean, where is the place that you would recommend it?
When I am helping somebody, I will give them access to that directly from the manufacturer.
Oh, that's wonderful. So guys, again,
sure of what you're getting your hands on, because there's lots of copies of everything out there.
So guys, in case this has got your attention, do reach out. And again, as I mentioned, Keith is not a doctor, but he has done extensive research on the functioning of a human body. And he's got, it's not just claims. He's got live example of how people have transformed their lives in being more healthier, more stronger, including his own self.
Yeah.
So, Keith, just being mindful of the time, if you have to give some suggestions or advices to the listeners, specifically from the heart or the diabetes and things like that, what would your thoughts be?
Well, firstly, I'll happily talk to anybody on a one-to-one basis. I don't even charge people anything to share information, answer questions, support them, because I believe that's my contribution to mankind, to help and support and save people's lives.
Wonderful.
But from a cardiovascular perspective, a lot of people out there are on both blood pressure medications and cholesterol medications.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's important to understand the mechanism of how somebody ends up there and what's actually going on. So if you think of an artery, and as time goes on, you're building up more and more plaque on it, you're actually restricting the blood flow that's getting through to the far side. Now, as the restriction slows down blood flow getting through to, let's say your liver is the far side of that blood supply, your liver recognizes that the blood supply has been slowly diminishing. And every time it diminishes, your liver sends a message to your brain and asking your heart to rise up in pressure. And as time goes on, you could have another organ or a gland getting a lack of blood supply there. So all these parts of the body that keep screaming, looking for extra blood supply, are going to cause the heart to keep rising in pressure to answer the call for support of more blood flow. Now, the heart will keep going up to a level where those organs and glands get satisfied with blood supply. But the healthcare professional may notice that the blood pressure is up quite high, and they may say, that's too high, we better put you on a medication.
True.
So what does the medication do? Does it solve the problem or not? It does nothing about the plaque buildup. It does nothing about opening the restricted blood flow. It only instructs the heart to lower down on pressure. So therefore, The liver was getting the right blood supply because the heart was working up here in pressure. Now the medication is telling the heart not to work up there. Now the liver is back starved down to the blood supply it was getting before it started to ask the heart to rise in pressure. But everyone's clapping themselves on the back saying we have the blood pressure under control. But the plaque is still there. The buildup is still happening. And the more plaque that is there, the bigger the risk of a plaque rupture. And if plaque ruptures, a clot can form, and if that sticks in the brain, that's called a stroke. If it sticks in the heart, it's called a heart attack. So blood pressure medication does not solve the reason the body asks the heart to rise in pressure. Similarly, in cholesterol, when I was doing cardiovascular screenings, if I screened somebody in their 30s and they came in with a cardiovascular system of somebody in their 60s, that there's a lot more stiffness in the arteries than there should be. So they were building up plaque a lot faster than their age group. They always told me, oh, by the way, my cholesterol's high. But when we cleaned their arteries and we got the flexibility back, their cholesterol came back down. But on the opposite side of the coin, if their cholesterol is perceived to be high, they're put on medication, which is called a statin drug, which instructs the liver to lower the production of cholesterol. But the body still needs that cholesterol to do. Cholesterol is needed to make hormones, bile acids, build cells. 87% of every cell in your body is built from cholesterol. So we need a certain level of cholesterol to do those jobs. If there's a bit of extra stiffness in the arteries, the body's going to ask the liver to make a bit more to seal cracks and tears because of the stiffness issue. Your myelin around the brain is made from fats and cholesterol. You cannot repair the myelin without cholesterol. So if there's a bit of repair to be done to the myelin or the myelin sheath, your body's going to ask your liver to make another bit. Now your cholesterol's here, but they tell you it should be here. So they put people on a statin drug, which brings the cholesterol production back down to here. But all the jobs that are waiting on it is still up at this up here.
Oh, okay.
So how are those jobs going to be done? So if you have a lack of cholesterol and your body wants to repair the myelin, it can't do it because it doesn't have enough. And then the messaging gets scrambled, passing through to the brain. And that's called Alzheimer's and dementia.
Wow. So, guys, in the short while, we have seen by us not being mindful and what we are putting in the body can have far-reaching consequences, right? From heart challenges, sugar problem, pressure, and now what you mentioned about dementia and Alzheimer's also. So Keith, you have been very informative about what's been out over there and what are the options that we could work on. So guys, this is my request to you. If you want more information on what Keith is doing, send me a DM and I could set up another talk about further details. It may, I would avoid being it to be more technical, but then what is really happening in the area whether we will talk about the fast food, or whether we talk about the medical professions, or whether we talk about all the different elements which is taking place around the world and how you can safeguard yourself from it. So Keith, thank you so very much for your space and time. It has been very, very informative. Thank you, sir.